Can I tell you what the real story was?
What?
Knowing what I know behind the scenes, okay? Just hearing things that are out there about the retirement. Quite honestly, the bigger story here, without question to me, is what would have happened or what was going to happen if Mike Norvell went to Alabama. That is the storyline. Without question.
I'm calling BS on this part. I really don't think that it is a foregone conclusion that Lane Kiffin is packing up and that he's going. And he's
I didn't say that yet. I hadn't gotten to that
but
yet.
that's what you were getting at. That was what you were about to get at.
No, where I was going down is I think, because in the article they said we spoke to Steve Sarkisian early in the process. They didn't give a timeline. And we already knew that Sark was staying, okay? Candidate number 1 for Nick is out of the way, okay? Hey, I really like Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell was in the thing. Kalen DeBoer was in there. Lane and Dabo weren't ever really considered. Joe, you know why they're not considered? Because Nick said they won't be considered. So it comes down to DeBoer and it comes down to Norvell. And I think, quite honestly, I really do think if he would have come, yes, Lane would have gone. But just the coaching carousel of what could have been, like what we don't see. Like we talk about, Jimmy Sexton, all the agents are working during crazy season. No, like these conversations are actually happening. There's a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes.
Okay. It's just like right now, we're seeing nonstop NFL rumors coming out from Ian Rappaport, from Daniel Jeremiah, from Adam Schefter. A lot of the information that's getting pumped out with draft speculation and draft rumors is agents making phone calls and shooting texts to reporters and telling them to report on something because they're guaranteeing them at a later date they will give them a scoop.
Greg Bryan a liar?
That's not what I'm saying.
So he said it was down to him and Norvell, and they chose DeBoer over
Norvell.
Norvell.
But I'm not talking about the Norvell thing. I'm talking about this speculation that Lane Kiffin was in the mix for Florida State. My point is that I think that there is deliberate plants made by agents in order to drive up the value of their clients, and why I'm bringing this up in comparison to draft season, because you could just say shit. You could say whatever you want during draft season, and it all could technically be true. You want to drive up the value for your client as a prospect and create a market for somebody to trade up and take a guy earlier. That gets you more money as an agent. That gets your client more money. My point I'm trying to get at here is I'm not really buying that Lane Kiffin would have left Ole Miss to go to the ACC with the shit show that they're currently dealing with, and the fact that they got pushed out of the college football playoff as recently as they were, and we don't know if they're going to be able to leave the ACC for the SEC. I don't think that Lane Kiffin, that's a desirable job for him. He is an SEC guy through and through. I think it's more desirable for him if he ended up going to somewhere like Florida. My point I'm trying to get at here is we always mention him for openings, and he doesn't end up going there. We talked about it with Auburn not that long ago, and he stayed put. I think that Jimmy Sexton does this on purpose to drive up the market.
No, he was going to Auburn.
Why didn't he go to Auburn?
Because it got blown up at the last minute. The Ole Miss beat reporter reports it, and then they're about to play in the New Year's Six Bowl, and Lane said, no, that was a Les Miles type of, Les Miles is going to Michigan situation.
I still think that this is a lot of –
Joe, he's been brought up three times in 3 years on going places. At some point,
I think that's because his agent's doing it. Jimmy Sexton is doing it.
So at some point, not everybody's lying. Greg Bryan, isn't lying.
If there's
Greg Bryan confirmed that he was having day in, day out conversations, with Mike Norvell. Then
that part I don't disagree with.
Florida State athletic director tells Chris Lowe, hey, Friday morning, we were fully prepared for Mike Norvell to leave. We gave one last heave to keep Mike Norvell at Florida State. What do you mean these conversations aren't happening? So the AD
I'm not saying they're not happening. I just don't think they're as serious as we think that they are. I think it was simple as a phone call. Say like, hey, would you like to talk to Lane Kiffin about this? That creates a market. That creates a market for Lane Kiffin.
That's not just to pick up the phone call and say, hey, do you want to talk to Lane?
Just talking to Lane increases his chance of getting more money the next time his contract's up. It increases the chance for.
Remember this Mike Norvell thing?
It increases the amount of NIL funding which he just got in order for him to go sign more kids in the transfer portal. He literally just did this cycle. He just bitched and moaned in order to get more money, and he did publicly. You think that he talk about behind the scenes shit? Him and Jimmy Sexton make so many goddamn moves in order for him to get more money and resources. Talk about somebody making moves behind the scenes. It's him.
Greg Byrne, not Greg Bryan. That's my fault.
Yep.
I
don't believe it.
Believing and reality are two different things. That's something I tell my wife all the time.
Okay, cool. I mean, you could say that. We don't know what the reality is unless you were on the phone call. Did they loop you? Were you merged into the call?
No,
were you on the call?
No, but what I do think is, Joe, at some point, Chris Lowe, okay, who is arguably one of, if not the best in our business, okay, who doesn't get political, who all he does is it's just college football, right?
I'm not doubting his credibility.
Okay. So you have him out there getting behind the scenes, pulling behind the curtain. Do you think everybody's just lying to him and he just ran with it just because?
No, that was why I brought up the draft being an important part to this whole thing. Agents exchange information to reporters all the time in order for them because it's not wrong information. It's not wrong for him to publish that Lane Kiffin was a candidate for the Florida State job. That's not false information. It just is vague enough that we don't know if Lane Kiffin would have left and taken that job. It is deliberately done by what do you mean bye?
That's what Lane would have been telling everybody in Oxford.
I really don't think that it's a foregone guarantee. I don't think that unless you're Mike Norvell there currently, I don't think that Florida State is a desirable job because of the current situation of everything that they're dealing with.
Now, that could be something. Maybe it doesn't. You could have a point there. I'm not going to deny. But I'm going to put a bottle of scotch up for you that he's gone and he's not going to be the Ole Miss Rebels head coach in 2025.
All right, bet me on it.
I already did.
All
right. Anything else about the Saban piece about him retiring that you want to get to here?
No, I mean that was the extent of it.
Okay. Well, congratulations to Nick. I mean, look, hopefully things are completely different in Tuscaloosa. Joe, you saw today that they're letting their media in to practice. And they're blaring loud music.
Was that something that they weren't allowed to do before?
Oh, no, sir.
Wasn't allowed in?
And you know what else? They got a head coach that's got Twitter for the first time. Okay, and
it doesn't take much.
Okay, well, if you go from hey, my coach doesn't post on social media, so I have to go to every single event and know everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then now you got Womack, their DC, doing recruiting videos on the practice field.
That I thought was funny. I thought
really
that was
weird
funny.
day in T-Town. But yeah, I do think that was a little bit comical.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.